time of great isolation for everyone. And your character in your story is always often by himself, or he has a scene partner, which is a tree, or the security guard played by Sebastian Groff, who is very far away from you. And you speak to Léa Seydoux's character through a screen. So how, as an actor, did you perform for this role?
What I need to prepare, it's all the material that he sent me before the shooting. There's a lot of books, because I'm a neuroscientist that studied babies about early cognitive development. So I have to study how the brain of a baby evolved during times, and at the same time I need to study plants. And during the process, it really changed my perspective towards not just plants, but towards the world. I have a different perspective. To me, before, I used to jog every day on the top of the mountain, and I see plants as plants. But after I study plants, I believe they have intelligence, although they don't have brain, but in a different form. I believe they are not just living beings, but sentient beings. And if you respect plants like that, you will respect all other living beings in the planet. So you will become more humble. It just changed my perspective towards. I prepare my character through the educational background.
Well, the title of the film is Silent Friend, but for a friendship you need two beings. So there is this beautiful silence of a ginkgo tree and this beautiful silence of the amazing Tony Leung. And
someone who never man with a few words.
So actually, this sort of tender meeting of these two very different sort of silences, without words, without dialogues, is the heart of the film. This connection is why I wanted to do this film. And there are additional colors, but this is the main arc of the film. The longing for connection and the obstacles in this connection, because it is not an easy task to find a way to connect even with another human being. Imagine that with such a different being as a tree, and it's absolutely not by chance that Professor Wong's his role in the film profession is also connected to beings with whom you cannot communicate verbally. You have to find other ways. You have to be resourceful. And you have to have a very patient and tender eye to really perceive what is in this other being, a human baby.
So that's the reason why during the preparation, although I'm a neuroscientist at the early cognitive development of babies, I have to study plants too. I study a book about plants' intelligence. So, yeah, it's a lot of work.
So you spoke a lot about your new understanding of nature after the film. But do you feel that the film's understanding of time, representation of time, and also the relationship between species ties to your understanding of Buddhist philosophy?
I didn't get it.
So, you kind of are interested in Buddhist philosophy, and as a practitioner, as a person who looks at Buddhist philosophy. So this film, as Ildikó has said, looks at time in a particular kind of way. So do you see any connection between how the film looks at time like a cycle and the different relationships between animals, humans, and plants? Is that related to you in some way? Do you see a connection to Buddhist philosophy?
I think after this project, I don't believe in hierarchy anymore. And I believe everything is even. If I respect plants in that way, if I think they are sentient beings, then what about insects and other living beings on Earth? Oh, I think we're all even. It's about Buddhism. At the very beginning, when I received this script, there's a quote from Ildikó, from a neuroscientist, and Youssef. The quote is, we are all hallucination all the time, but when we agree with the hallucination, we call it reality. That very impressed me. I was so impressed with that quote because I think that's very much like Buddhism, that everything is just an illusion.
One more question for Ildikó before we open the questions to the floor. So maybe Ildikó, could you speak about the visual language of the film? You use different film gauge, 16mm, 35mm, but the way the plants are represented is so distinct with the cellular detail, also the moment of germination and when the sperm sort of like encounters the fruit. How did you come to this visual language when planning the film?
Well, in cinema you have just your eyes and ears, and this film is, or at least wanted to be, a very sensual film. It's also about hormones, pheromones, pollens, smells, feelings, hidden passion, and we had to invent, on one side, give a sound and give an image to things, which are, for example, smells, just to invite you in a slightly different sort of perception. We didn't want to tell you that, yeah, this is how a tree feels, a tree perceives the world, because we don't know. But at least for the human eyes and the human ears, we try to draw attention to it, that there are other life forms, other equally valid and rich and complex words, inner words, and our one is not the default, it's just one of the many. And we used the most elementary and quite simple and transparent tools of cinema. The texture of the image is so important. So the black and white 35mm with its richness in detail is just great to show the structure of life, the structure of these plants. What Greta discovers actually through photography. It's not by chance that it's photography. What she is seeing, it's those structures what plants share with mathematics, with cosmology, and what we generally don't see when we see these everyday plants. The 60mm color with its big grain, very burning, bright colors, it's just great for that sort of experimenting period when everyone, also with hallucinogens, also with many, many other ways, tried to enlarge the field of perception. And then in 2020, we treated the digital as seriously as the celluloid, because it's also an art form and you can express a lot also with digital. So that was one element, and of course I just give you one example how much you can underline with the sound design. At the very beginning